I'm going to let you keep admitting people and just say hello to everyone. I'm also in Toronto today, and that's actually where CMRRA is based. I'm going to be sharing my screen in a little bit, but I just wanted to say that if there's a huge amount of things that you can, I'm just going to close this, sorry. Things that you might know about CMRRA, I see from the list of attendees, there is quite a diverse amount of people here who may have differing amounts of knowledge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of a crash course on some of the rights and royalties things that you may not know. For some of you, you might already know this, but at the end, I will also be going through our new international collections service, which we actually launched this morning. So it's a pretty exciting day for us at CMRRA. And we will also touch on the unclaimed works portal. And if you hear my cat in the background, her name is Curtains and she's in a mood today. So you might get a special appearance too. Let me try and share my screen and we'll just go into the presentation. And as was mentioned before, if you do have questions, please put it in the chat and we will try and answer them. All right. All right, so today we're going to be talking about collective music licensing in the digital age. That's my name, Rebecca Webster. I'm the Director of Industry Relations and Communications, and we've also got Marianne Anderson, my colleague, who is the Publisher Relations Manager. If you are a client of CMRRA already, you will probably have interacted with Marianne because she is huge vat of knowledge on what we do in our day-to-day and has been there for significantly longer than me. We were established in 1975, and we represent music copyright owners who are doing business in Canada. And CMRRA is an acronym that stands for Canadian Musical Reproduction Rights Agency. To give some perspective, in 2020, we distributed $54.8 million to our clients. And this was in the pandemic year, so I think that's pretty impressive. People often ask who our clients are. We work with all major music publishers. That would be Warner Chappell, Sony ATV, and Universal, most independent music publishers, and self-published songwriters. We also work with managers, and I'm sure there are many in this forum today, and publishing administrators. And they usually work on behalf of other clients who are, and to administer some of the rights and royalties information that we need to make sure we collect on your behalf. There may be people here who don't know what music publishing is, so I just wanted to mention that they are the champion of the songwriter. They help songwriters establish their craft and their careers. They're a creative sounding board. They provide artist and repertoire support. They suggest recording opportunities. They pitch songs for use in film, television, commercials, games, and other usages. And they set up co-writing opportunities. They also often provide financial support, administer royalties, that's where they interface with us. They track down money owed, and they enforce copyright. Music publishers also champion the industry in the ongoing fight for songwriter royalties. We've seen that a bit in the past year because of the pandemic going on. They interface with government within the music industry and also with new technology, with all of the new apps that are popping up every day. Now, if you're watching me today and you're a songwriter, or if you're someone who works with a songwriter who doesn't have a relationship with a music publisher, we consider you a self-published songwriter at CMRRA, and you can affiliate with us directly if that's the case. Now, if you or the person that you work with begins to work with the music publisher, we can easily move your catalog so that they can handle the administration of our songs, of your songs. Now, this is something that happens every day. Catalogs change hands every day. So this is a really normal occurrence for us at CMRRA to be given direction on who to be working with. Some basics: we pay our clients royalties 4 times a year: March 15th, June 15th, September 15th, and December 15th. And you don't have to be Canadian to be our client. I'm just going to close this. So as long as the songs that you represent are being played, streamed, or downloaded in Canada, we can work with you. There's a lot of acronyms and phrases that are used in the realm of rights and royalties, and this is one of them, but it's one that I really like to explain. Collective management organization. Sometimes it's referred to as collective or collectives. Essentially, what it refers to is the way we negotiate and license music. We do it on your collective behalf. If you were a songwriter or if you represent a songwriter, you know how hard it would be to be speaking with Spotify directly to figure out your license. We're able to do that on a collective manner in this way. Now, who do we work with on the other side? Well, we work with all the online streaming and download platforms operating in Canada. We work with radio stations operating in Canada, including satellite, commercial, non-commercial, and the CBC. We also work with YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Oculus VR, and we've got ink drying on a deal with TikTok, so I've mentioned them here. How does it work? Well, all streaming services and radio stations in Canada and YouTube and Facebook, they send their data logs to the CMRRA. This is matched with the music publishing data or song splits that are registered in our database. We invoice the services, they pay us, and then the music publisher or the self-published songwriter or the people representing those people get paid. This is in the name of our company, but I like to go through it because I think that sometimes the idea of how the royalty is generated is a little foreign. So this is a really reductive way of thinking about it, but I think I find it's quite useful in the end. So what are musical reproduction rights? Well, reproduction is making copies. Musical reproduction, making copies of songs. Musical reproduction rights, the right to make copies of songs. And that all adds up to granting the rights to reproduce songs is, in general sense, music licensing. Now, here's this is still my crash course here. An original song can generate money through 2 main areas. On the left, we've got the reproduction of a song. And on the right, we've got the performance. This paints you a little bit of a picture of where we sit in the world. So CMRRA, as you can see, is on the left. There's also CMMRRA, who offer some mechanical services, reproduction rights services. On the right, we've also got SOCAN for performance of a song. There's also ASCAP and BMI. Those are 3 options of North American performance rights organizations. If you look down on the left, we've got Connect Music Licensing and SOPROC, who are based in Quebec. They represent the master recording right. And then on the bottom right corner, we've got a whole bunch of organizations who work in neighboring rights. Essentially, you can do a combination of these to collect those rights, but you need to kind of make sure your puzzle is well thoughtfully done so that you're not missing any gaps in rights and that money is not being left on the table. While there is always one song composition, there can be several recordings of the song. And you can think of this, I often use the example of Journey, Don't Stop Believin'. We know that, that there's one song, but obviously there are many, many, many recordings of that song. When we looked in our Unclaimed Works portal, we saw that the cast of Glee had recorded it, and it was just sitting there. So it was like, Don't Stop Believin', as recorded by the cast of Glee. That is an example of a recording of song composition. The 2 sides here. And this just gives you the full picture. We've got composition at the top, the recording at the bottom, and then all the organizations that are working with it in North America. There is no test to this crash course, but it's just to situate you on what rights we're working on. Ultimately, CMRRA is a digital licensing expert. We license all streaming and download services operating in Canada. On the right, you've got Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. They're just three of the majors, but we also work with many, many, many other platforms. And you know, we work with Keb Music from Quebec or in Quebec. We work with Indigenous Cloud. They're specific to the Indigenous market. And when you sign up for our online music services line of business, as those new platforms get added, they automatically, we start collecting for those platforms as well. So that's how it works on our side. CMRRA can retroactively collect royalties from the online services. This works a little bit differently than performance royalties because of the way that we invoice them and that they then pay us. But it's a real opportunity if you're working with someone who, say, put a song up on SoundCloud and didn't really realize that they had to collect these mechanical royalties, and this song has been generating streams. Well, they should also be generating royalties, so they should be collected for. So if you were realizing that you're in this situation, then you need to make sure that you sign up and get those royalties collected. We can still do that. They don't disappear after 3 years like performance royalties. We're continuously licensing new areas, and one of them is YouTube. That happened in 2016. Our lines of business operate a little bit like tapas in that you can sign up for what you want. So if you already know the back end of YouTube, you don't necessarily need to sign up for that, that line of business. Oh my gosh. Wow. I don't know what just happened there. Hold on a second. I'm just going to check this again. Sorry.
No problem. I'm pleased to see that Curtains has indeed joined you
arrived
today.
Let's see. That is so strange. I swiped my pad during this and then it just disappeared.
Maybe just the reshare needs to start again. Or
yeah, I'm going to do that.
It's okay. We can just scroll through the first few. Little cheeky little review.
Yeah, maybe if there's any questions, I can answer them a little bit.
Sure. I don't see any in particular at the moment. There's one from someone who is commenting that CD Baby says they're not collecting on artist neighboring rights. Yet a sync claim recently popped up and stopped the video from airing on a conference platform. So we had to switch everyone to YouTube. So I'm not sure.
I'm going to let Marianne answer that one.
Sure.
Ask some questions while I try and figure this out.
Sure.
I'm just going to look at the actual question there so I can make sure I've covered off all the points. Okay. So, okay. I don't have much to add to that situation because we're talking about sync licensing and different platforms. We're not involved with synchronization licensing in the traditional sense. What we're involved with is the post, the audiovisual post synchronization reproduction. So, you know, videos posted on YouTube, that type of thing. CD Baby, you know, traditionally when they started out, they were a vehicle to deliver the content to those online music services. And then they branched out and offer CD Baby Pro, which is a paid service, and you can engage them to collect your royalties. In that sense, we call them or refer to them as aggregators, third-party aggregators. So, you know, if you've engaged CD Baby Pro to collect your publishing, then they would make sure that your repertoire is registered with us so we can license it and collect royalties. And then we distribute the royalties back to them to forward to you per the terms of your agreement. So the different platforms, this specific question, I can't really answer because I don't know what the answer is to that.
Okay, great. I think just a quick follow-up on that before we jump back into the presentation. So if you're distributed buy a label, do they collect the rights that CMRRA would collect?
Not on the label side. The labels are generally involved with the master rights, assuming they hold the master rights, and that's the original recording. You know, if they paid for that original recording, they probably own the master rights, unless you've negotiated to retain those or get them back.
Perfect.
I
Thank
should
you.
mention too that CD Baby is have the pro option and are also a publishing administrator. So some people might not know what that term means, but a publishing administrator could be either a human who is helping you navigate the landscape of rights and royalties. It could also be an online platform like CD Baby Pro, where you've ticked a box and said, I want you to collect in certain territories. And if that's the case, they are actually working with us to collect from Canada, and then they will send it to you. So just understanding how that works sometimes sheds a bit of light on your choices. I've managed to share my screen again, so I'll keep going, and I'll stop for more questions later. So I was mentioning that we came into an agreement with YouTube in 2016, and then in 2019, we added Facebook services as a line of business, which includes Instagram and Oculus VR. If you saw, you know, the ability to have music in your Instagram stories, that was directly because of this agreement that came into play. All of our agreements do have a term, however. So these agreements the agreement terms are usually about 2 years, and then they get renegotiated. And that's often put in place so that you know, if technology advances or new parts launch with these companies, then we're able to make sure that those pieces are valued correctly for our clients. Now, this is brand new. We partnered with Impel and the Mechanical Licensing Collective for international collections, and we launched that this morning. The Mechanical Licensing Collective is also known as the MLC. And this is a good time for us to talk a little bit more about international collections. So we're working with new global partners to provide music publishers and self-published songwriters an option to facilitate international licensing and royalty collection. And what are we collecting? Well, we're collecting digital mechanical royalties with the Mechanical Licensing Collective and with Impel. Impel is actually based in London, England, and we're going to be working with them to collect ex-North America territory collections. The MLC and Impel will collect from music-only services, while Impel will additionally collect from audiovisual services such as Facebook and YouTube. And going a bit deeper into the MLC, its creation, it was mandated by US Congress by the Music Modernization Act, which is also known as the MMA. And they only launched on January 1st, 2021. And they had a very, very quick ramp up. And so we're learning at CMRRA, as is most of the world right now, when they look at the MLC in terms of how it's going to operate. But we've heard that payment from the MLC may happen as soon as April. So it seems to be trucking along well. Digital service providers will be paying mechanical royalties to the MLC, both for prior periods and on a going forward basis. So we're now a collective management organization member of the MLC, and we're going to be ensuring that musical works are properly registered so that past and future US digital mechanical royalties are flowing efficiently, in line with the same service levels we already provide for Canadian royalties. If you're our client, you'll know that our invoices and our statements are extremely detailed. There's share by share payment information on each line. You can expect to see the same thing through this new partnership with the MLC. It means that the transparency of what information you're getting on why you're receiving those royalties is right at your fingertips. Now, going on to the other relationship that we have in international collections is with Impel, and we'll be collecting digital royalties for territories outside of North America on a go-forward basis. And the date of that go-forward is actually January 1st, 2021. Now, on your right, there's an image of the territories that Impel collects for currently: the UK and the European Economic Area, including Switzerland, Eastern Europe, Middle East and North Africa, Latin America, and India. Now, when we started speaking with them about this, we were really pleased to see that the way they administer royalties is very much in line with the way we operate. So it's been a very great relationship to build. And so the accuracy and the detail is going to be there as well. Now we're working in phases with Impel. So we have a first phase of implementation, and we're in that now. You can actually send your full affiliation to CMRRA today that to include this, or you can just send the addendum if you are a client already. It will begin with their core territories, which include the European Economic Area, including the UK and Switzerland, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. And the ones that weren't included from the previous list are India and Latin America. They will be coming. In terms of the timeline for that, it's probably going to be 2022 for those, but it is on our radar. I like to include this slide because I think it's good to see how many countries are included in these new international collections. For the core territories, just with Impel, this is over 75 countries. I think it's actually 76, but it's a really impressive step in terms of how many places we'll be collecting from. We're often asked how the information gets transmitted to these organizations. So if you look on the top left, you've got the music publisher and the songwriter. They would be sending the musical works info or verifying it with us to CMRRA. We already have a lot of information. If your claims are the same in other countries, then we already have the information. We just need you to verify that that's the same in different territories. That information would then be sent along to Impel on the right. They've got data in their system. There's a matching process that happens, an invoice is generated, a royalty payment is made. That payment comes back to CMRRA, and then it goes back to the music publisher and the self-published songwriter. And that's just a view of the workflow there. And you'll see, look, the logo changed. Same thing happens with the MLC. But there is one exception. There's been a lot of talk in the news about these unidentified royalties that are, it's over $400 million amount of song shares that are unidentified in the US. This doesn't exist in Canada, because in Canada, we get 100% of the information coming from the streaming and download platforms, 100% of the information coming from the radio stations, and we're able to base our claims on that. But the US has not been operating in this way. So if you look on the top left here, we've got the MLC at the top and the undistributed database. Now, that information actually gets fed into CMRRA. We are then looking to identify musical works and shares, make a match, and then send that information back to the MLC. A royalty payment would be generated back to CMRRA, back to the music publisher and the self-published songwriter. This black box or unidentified database in the US does have a term length. It's 3 years. Our goal is to claim as much as we can out of that so that it doesn't go to a market share payment in 3 years' time, which is how Congress has mandated it to happen. So if you've seen these news stories with like all the companies that have been giving information to the MLC from this black box, that gives a little bit more clarity on our role in it. So just once the royalty payment is sent back to CMRRA for any claims made either with the MLC or through our connection with Impel, payments will go into our regular flow of quarterly cycles. So that's how it's going to be paid back out to music publishers and self-published songwriters. Now, we really think that this is, you know, an added solution for people who are working with us, because there are a lot of people who are thinking more globally when it comes to administering their royalties. We know that we already have a lot of the information in the system, and we know that we're able to transmit that really effectively. So our goal is to do that properly and efficiently. Now, there's one more piece to this conversation, and that is just our unclaimed works portal. I can go into that, but I'm going to pause and see if there's questions, because this is such a new conversation that I'm sure there will be.
Definitely. Yes, I have a few, especially about MLC, because that's been popping up in the news recently. So we have a few questions about that. So somebody is asking, I have read on the SOCAN website that they will only collect from MLC if the songwriter controls 100% of the song. Is this also the case with CMRRA? If so, why?
So first of all, I don't know how SOCAN is administering this relationship with the MLC, but certainly CMRRA has never been in that situation where we can't collect for 20% of a song, for instance. We have always been administering share by share, and I don't think that's going to change. So Marianne, I'm going to see if you can add to that.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate that I don't know either how SOCAN has structured their plans to make claims with the MLC. They're a collective management organization who has signed up with them, like we are and like others are. Yes, we issue licenses at a share level and collect those royalties at a share level. So if you control 50% of a song, and someone else controls 50% of it, because we don't have that whole 100% on file necessarily, or if we don't, it doesn't stop us from licensing and collecting your share of that. Everyone's responsible for their own claim on a song. So we'll move forward with issuing a license and collecting royalties on yours. That's not an issue for us. What's that?
Hopefully that's good news for the person who asked the question.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't be penalized if someone's business affairs aren't in order, that remaining share.
Yeah. And I think that's also that's where our expertise lies. People often think it's strange that we'll go on about this share by share invoicing and sort of transparency, but that really is, one of the things is that we are working for the people who own the shares, not the people who own the whole sum total of the musical work or the song.
Awesome. Do you know approximately what the prior period that the MLC payments or collections will be covering?
Well, I mean, just the ability to go retroactively is positive here because we've always been able to do that. In 2004 is when the online services launched in Canada. So I'm assuming that it's when the online services launched in the US. Marianne, I don't know if you have any.
Well, I think what the MLC contains specifically is the past 3 years worth of activity. Is it? I think there's a definitive time frame that they've collected for or what's been paid over, but I'm not entirely sure yet. I mean, if we can go and look at the MLC's website or ask someone internally, but that probably is, that answer's out there somewhere.
Yeah, it's not.
I know it dates back at least 3 years, and I know it's like the 3-year increment comes to mind of moving forward at any given time. So I don't know if it extends back prior to 3 years. The MLC specifically, not us. It's a different story with CMRRA and Canadian activity. Like Rebecca said, we can go back to day one.
Great. We also have a question that asks, so Rebecca, you mentioned that DSP, so the DSP, everybody, that stands for digital service provider, so such as Spotify. So you mentioned that DSP royalties are available retroactively. again, back to this question, are there any other royalties collected by CMRRA that are also retroactively available?
I could speak to that. We can go back, not, retroactive to day one, if we're talking in terms of like, 5-10 years, that's more unique to the online or digital uses and activity. Something like the broadcast mechanical, which is broadcasters paying to make copies of songs on their servers, so it's still a reproduction right. That extends back a bit, but there is an end date with that, where that file closes off to future claims. So we are still paying out 2020 activity for that. We receive the logs, the radio logs, the money's collected from these broadcasters, and then we can kind of move forward from that point. And that takes a bit of time, but we can only go back so far with other business lines. All the same, if you're talking about something like mechanicals, like physical product, there are many variables to consider. Like, is it on a major label, and do those unpaid royalties get paid over into the unclaimed or an unclaimed file, in essence? Was it someone pressing the CD themselves? There are so many variables at hand that every situation is unique. But rest assured, I can add, rest assured, if we can access any retroactive royalties, we will.
I think there's like a camera focus that's just on me right now. It would be great if we could change that so Marianne will pop up too.
Sure, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's really is into you.
Yeah, no, there is like something about like promote me, and I just want to see if we can change.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm fine if no one sees me and just hears my voice.
Anyway, any other questions in the meantime?
There's a few questions about, someone's asking the relationship of Sound Exchange and CMRRA. Can you explain how that works?
Sound Exchange bought CMRRA in 2017. And that was done for many reasons. One being that it meant that in the transaction, we were able to keep our administration fees low for our clients. It also meant that there was a commitment to supporting our technology needs. And if you can imagine how much data that we are processing from all of these radio streams and YouTube platforms and that kind of thing, and the information that we're keeping on the other side from our clients, it's enormous, and it's only going to grow more. So we've really made a commitment, and with the help of Sound Exchange, to make sure that our systems are super able to handle the future. Because we didn't want to lag, and we knew that we were sort of at a turning point in the company. So they do work in, they are also a collective management organization, and but they administer a different royalty, and we work at an arm's length from them. So we are guided by the Canadian Publishers Committee, which is the CPC, and the members of that committee are members of music publishers who have headquarters in Canada, large, medium, small. So they all have a voice at the table, and they really guide our licensing choices and activity. So, in terms of what the makeup of CMRRA is, there are a lot of people who are day-to-day doing administration, but we also have a very focused team of legal people working on agreements and negotiating with these platforms. And so they take that direction from the CPC. And that was one of the terms of the sale to Sound Exchange, was that it would still operate as a independent music publisher focused organization, because that's where CMRRA came from, a collective voice on behalf of the music publishers in Canada, or operating in Canada, I should say.
That's great. I think we're ready to move forward, and we'll deal with more questions at the end, I think.
All right, so I'm going to show you a little video. This is just about our unclaimed works portal. And just to preface it, I joined CMRRA in May 2019, and I believe it launched just prior to that. And it really is a tool. It's a tool that is accessible for clients and non-clients alike. You can apply to get access to it, although your access levels will be different for clients versus non-clients. But it is a tool to try and make sure that you have as many claims verified as possible. So I'm gonna play.
Music fans around the world can stream the songs they love with the touch of a button. But for
Rebecca, sorry, you need to unmute so we can hear
like
it.
CMRRA and SX Works, fighting for your rights to help you navigate billions of streams and claim what is owed to you. Today, we're changing the game with a new tool that empowers rights owners worldwide. The Unclaimed Works portal bridges the gap between sound recording and musical work metadata for music played on digital services in Canada. With the new portal, powered by CMRRA Direct, you can search for unmatched uses of your repertoire, match individual tracks to musical works, and submit missing copyright ownership claims on those works. The portal is open to self-published songwriters and music publishers of all sizes, no matter your current relationship with CMRRA. Simply log in and select your current relationship status. You can register to access the portal for free, even if you are not represented by CMRRA. The Unclaimed Works portal includes a simple search option for all users and an advanced search feature for CMRRA clients. The portal provides sound recording data from all services aggregated by the ISRC and is searchable through a number of fields. With this new portal, rights owners now have the ability to view and search tracks linked to songs with shares that have not been claimed. The portal provides up-to-date claim status, so you can track your claims throughout the process. Once a match is made, it can translate into multiple payments across multiple services for CMRRA clients. Earning trust through transparency and data exposure, advocating for your rights, and innovating with technology that anticipates and meets your needs. CMRRA is all in for you.
All right, feeling jazzy.
It's great.
It goes by so quickly.
It does.
It's so fast. But it is a tool, and it is there to surface maybe shares that have not been claimed, as the video says. We think that it will add to the conversation with the MLC in particular for those unidentified shares. If we're able to claim from our portal on our side, and those territories that you own a copyright for is also the same in the US, then it should also unlock more shares and generate more royalty payments that way as well. Now that I'm not sharing my screen, I can actually see a lot more, but we have some time, so.
Awesome. I think the next question that really came in was, is there a US equivalent of CMRRA? So this artist is registered with SOCAN in Canada and then with ASCAP in the US territory. And they're just trying to figure out if they need to register with multiple organizations for mechanicals or just with CMRRA.
Well, for mechanicals, now that our international collections is launched, you can join us directly for Canada and for the US, and even for these ex-North America territories. So that's a quick answer.
Quick answer for that.
Simple one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That's just, if I can add, sorry.
Yeah.
That's for the reproduction rights side of things too. You have all those different pieces of the puzzle Rebecca was explaining earlier that help form the whole picture. This is the reproduction rights side. So the copying activity that occurs, that's the downloading, streaming, those types of uses.
Great. And that intersects beautifully exactly with someone asked, if I'm registered with, say, Connect, SOCAN, Resound, should I also be registered with CMRRA?
Yeah, that's your missing piece.
Yes. Okay. We have a question. If you're a songwriter without a publishing deal, do you see any advantage to registering your own publishing company in order to, right? So does it make sense as a self-published person to create a publishing entity?
I think that depends on, in terms of like how you create a publishing entity. I think that choice is up to you, and it really depends on, creating a company depends on liability, and so you can make that choice yourself. But in our CMRA environment, yeah, Jay Gold is saying, yes, or the company just decide if you should incorporate or not. I agree with that. See an accountant. Those choices, should be made outside of the CMRA environment. But for us, we will ask you what your music publisher name is. And so people just have to recognize that we just need a publishing name to identify you by, and you're putting on a different hat when you're working with CMRA.
Yeah, and sometimes that is your name.
Yeah.
That's the name you're choosing to affiliate with us under. We don't prevent you from affiliating with us unless it's like a formally, incorporated organization or what have you. You can affiliate with us under whatever name suits you best.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question about ISRCs. So I've seen on CMRRA's website that CMRRA can provide ISRC codes. Am I making that up?
You're making that up.
I'm making that up. Good, everyone.
It's actually Connect Music Licensing is the organization in Canada who provides ISRC codes. You can also often get ISRC codes if you're registering via digital platform. I learned that the other day. We don't provide those, but we do need that kind of identifying information when you're registering with us.
Yeah, we do use that, Andrea. The vast amounts of metadata that we have, that we've accumulated since early 2000s when the digital was a new type of use. A lot of those cross-referencing agents that things we're using behind the scenes to make the computers work rely on those unique identifiers, one of which is an ISRC. So if you have it, we ask you to provide it, but all the same, we may have it already or be able to obtain it.
Sebastien Charret, hello. He says, how would you rate from 1 to 10? 10 is the best. The quality of data you receive from DSP, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Marianne, I think this is a better question from you because I don't necessarily see the day-to-day information. When you have
hi, Sebastian. Well, I mean, any of these, DSPs, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, record labels, the quality of the data in general is all right. But we consider our data obviously to be the best under in comparison to those organizations. A lot of times they're just forwarding to us the information they have, so it could have been an artist who recorded that, has loaded it, and they're just simply transmitting that information to us. But it's up to us to make sure that everything's, logged properly. So, Rebecca was mentioning about the journey Don't Stop Believing showing up from some DSPs. It could have all kinds of extraneous text in that title field, done in the style of, live, all different types of information. So it's our job to make sure that's all linked back to the actual work. We know that the data isn't going to be entirely accurate that's coming to us, and that's how we, move forward under that assumption. Sometimes our systems can auto match things. Other times you need human eyes on them. So we try to focus on only looking at things that we need to look at. But we tend to err on the side of caution. If we're not 100% sure or close to 100% sure that that is the actual work in our system, we will look at it and review it. So the data, I mean, it's a problem that's existed from day one. So I can't really rate them, Sebastian, sorry.
Just keeping it neutral. Okay, I'm going to ask another question that I have also. Oh no, you know what? This is more important. This is a better question. Someone is asking, is there any way to collect from internet radio stations yet, especially as they are popping up everywhere?
Marianne?
Are these, I'm not an expert in internet radio stations, but would these be ones where they're just online, or ones where, they have a terrestrial station, like I'll use Q107 as an example, and then they have the internet, their station playing over the internet? If maybe you can, online only. Okay.
I know that our licensing agreements do cover that, but whether the collection is happening, that's another question.
Yeah, that would be like a broadcast mechanical in my mind. They're a broadcaster. It's just the form in which they're broadcasting.
Yeah.
If you're wondering about a specific station, Aaron, maybe you can get in touch with us and we can look into that through our business affairs department, or they can provide a better answer. But if it fits the definition of a broadcast, something that's royalties that are owed under the broadcast mechanical umbrella or structure, they would be licensed and should be paying.
Yeah, they're asking if someone's following up on that, asking if online radio needs to report their playlists, but suggesting that most of them do not, at least to the charts or to Nielsen.
What we do is outside of that.
Right.
We're collecting, years ago, it used to be samples of airplay data. For those of us that are those that are dinosaurs like me and have been around for a long time, you remember, those samples a couple of times a year where people were handwriting out what songs they played. That is, that's not the way it's captured now, that data. They actually have logs, and those are provided to us, and that's what we use to base the payments on.
Seb has another question here. Do I need to get a license from CMRRA for online concerts? The current answer is no. We are collaborating with SOCAN and trying to come up with a solution for the entire industry because of the need, really. And that's one of the positive things that that the pandemic has come out to. Both sides are saying that the administration is a bit different. So stay tuned on that. But the current answer and the way to do it is make sure you get your live stream information from SOCAN, check in with them, but also keep a tab on what songs you played in that for future use. Maybe that will be useful later. And that would be the best practice advice right now, because it is a developing area.
Great. Yes, that will be interesting to see what happens there. We do have a question asking, is the CRTC the agency which categorizes online radio as a physical broadcaster or otherwise? Just going back to that online radio.
That I don't know the answer to, Valeria.
Yeah.
There are clear distinctions, but I'm just not involved personally in that aspect of things. I don't know if it would be the CRTC. Again, if you want to reach out to us directly, we can find out the answer to that.
Wonderful. Well, is there any other questions, anybody? We have a few more minutes left. This is a good time for us all to share any questions or any knowledge.
I can add a few things if there are no questions.
Absolutely.
Going back to the CMO, or collective management organization discussion, I just want to say to everyone that, as a collective management organization, this gives us the best bargaining stance when we go before like the Copyright Board of Canada, or we are negotiating agreements directly with those online music services looking to launch here. So when we represent a bulk of what's active, what will be offered, it gives us more strength to ask for those higher royalty rates. And, you know, the reporting requirements, like we're expecting, you know, things reported at a share by share level, the song, you know, we drill down to, like, if you're talking about online streaming uses, we can tell you exactly when that stream happened. If it's someone who subscribes to a family plan, if it's Spotify, who is like on the free tiered ad supported service, like we drill down to that level of detail. So these things, you know, we look for in our agreements. And like I said, if we represent a bulk of copyright owners, it gives us more bargaining strength. Another thing I'd like to reiterate is if you are a client or someone you're managing is a client of ours, it's very important that you keep your catalog up to date. So if you have new works that you've created that will be released, have been released, please make sure you're registering your claims to those songs with us, because we can't issue a license and collect the royalties until you actually tell us what it is. We may think it's you, but until you actually tell us in writing, we can't move forward with that process. So it's very important.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that should be part of the overall release plan. Otherwise it's out, but not doing everything that it should be. So that's really important.
For sure. Yeah, it could just contribute to a delay, right? And I mean, if it's something like the download or stream, we can go back and get it, sure. But, you know, we'd rather move forward in that process and make sure you're getting that money as soon as possible.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's looking good for questions.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you nailed it.
I don't think we've ever had that.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah.
We have an open door policy at CMRRA. We really welcome questions. As you can see with the international collections, especially with the MLC, there's a lot of evolving questions that are going to come up because it's so new. So we encourage you to send us emails and reach out, and we do try and get everything answered efficiently. And we'll be updating things like our FAQ on our website for those types of news services as well.
Perfect.
Nice.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Marianne and Rebecca, for your time today and for talking to us about all of these really exciting updates for creators and managers and publishers. So it's a really exciting time, and I'm very grateful to know that there's some good work at the helm. So we will follow up after this, you know, with some additional links and resources for everybody. So I'll make sure that goes out to all the registrants for this webinar.
Also, we should be announcing soon our partnership, our agreement with TikTok, and there is something else on the horizon as well for ASCAP and BMI clients who own US repertoire being played in Canada. So we are working very hard to try and adapt to the market needs, and that's really the future and where CMRRA is going next.
Amazing. Well, congratulations on all of these changes. It's really, really exciting. And thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.